This one's a little late, but there's a request for an explanation of what the heck THAC0 is.
Sure. Oh
God. In Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, there was this concept that the referee would be in charge of all the dice rolls. I'm playing 2 video games and explaining D&D at the same time, by the way, just so everyone's aware of what exactly is going on.
Which is in itself kind of a game,
Your
really.
nerd cred is great. Like, you're doing a great job.
So in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, there was this concept that the dungeon master was the ultimate referee. So anytime you made a roll, you would consult with the DM, and the DM would tell you what happened. Was sort of the base caution. So you would play. The DM in the Dungeon Master's Guide had all these charts, and the charts told you what the success of your rolls were. So it was like a matrix that was like, okay, if you roll this much against a monster of this level, you hit it, and if you roll this much against a monster of this level, you miss it. In AD&D 2nd edition, no one had ever done a 2nd edition for a role-playing game before, ever. It was the first one. And they were very conscious about wanting to make sure that it was backwards compatible with the previous edition. So they wanted the math to basically line up with what was being done before, but they wanted it to be easier and more user-friendly. And the compromise that was reached was THAC0. So THAC0 was an attempt to take those matrices and distill them down into one number line. So instead of having a big chart, each character was given a score that called their THAC0, which stands for 2-hit armor class 0. And again, because it was a conversion of the system from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, armor class started at 10 and went down infinitely, as opposed to starting at 0 and going up infinitely. So
the lower was better.
Yeah, 10 armor class was like plate mail, and so it was considered pretty good. So your character would start with a THAC0 of some high number, like 18 or 19 or something like that, because it was relatively difficult for them to hit armor class 0. And then as your character's level went up, their THAC0 would correspondingly go down, as it became easier for you to hit things with a higher or with a lower armor class. So yeah, you would basically have on your character sheet a line of your THAC0 in the middle, and then to hit the other armor classes on the left and right, so that when you roll the die, you could compare it against that line and determine which armor class you hit. It was not an incredibly intuitive system. In fact, it was notoriously backward, but it was at its core a compromise.
Literally backward.
Yes.
I mean, it was further confounded by the fact that there were lots of other roles in the game, of course, all of which were higher is better.
Yeah, well, and even your bonuses, right? Like, that just closed itself off. Even your bonuses, like, you would have a +1 sword, and you're like, okay, it's +1 to hit. What does that mean? It means that when you attack something, you roll your d20, you add the +1 from your sword, and then you compare that against your THAC0. So a +1 from your sword is ultimately the same as a -1 bonus or penalty, -1 to your THAC0. So some people would just pre-calculate their THAC0 with all the bonuses built in by subtracting all the pluses. Some people would roll dice, add, and then compare it against their THAC0. It was not well thought through.
And then they went and made it, they just took out all the good parts about it when they made D&D 3rd edition.
They're just like, you know what? What if you only ever counted up?
Yeah, which brought all the casuals in and ruined the whole game.